Well, we're staying with the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, still at that meeting in New York. He's been saying that Nigeria needs help from the international community in tackling its debt burden. He notes that the debt to GDP ratio of Africa has increased to 70%, and several countries are at the risk of high debt distress due to unstable, unsustainable debt levels. Now, what type of help should Nigeria be asking for at this time? We know that President Muhammadu Buhari also spoke on that also in New York. But let's hear the perspective of Dr. Emmanuel Abolo. He's the Director General of Economic Think Tank Center Limited, joining us virtually. Good morning, Dr. Abolo. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I think you're muted, Dr. Abolo. If you could check and unmute yourself, please. All right. So while we wait for Dr. Abolo to unmute and join us, I mean, the issue of debt in Nigeria, we had this conversation earlier in the week when the Debt Management Office released numbers to indicate that public debt is now 42.84 trillion naira, and that's about $103 billion. External debt levels is at 16.61 trillion naira, that's $40 billion. And we know that within 3 months, March and June, the country accumulated about 1.24 trillion naira of debts. And we'll talk about what this means to the economy, what's a picture does it paint, and the risks that the country stands against in the face of this mounting debt. Already we do know that Nigeria's debt servicing is higher than its revenue now, obviously unhealthy for any country. And as our guest who spoke to it earlier in the week had noted, this might give signal to other countries that it might be too risky to borrow money to Nigeria, and that will make our interest rate even go higher and debt servicing even higher. But I think we have Dr. Abolo now. Dr. Abolo, can you hear me now?
Good morning. I'm hearing you very clearly. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, Dr. Abolo. So we're talking about, of course, the debt situation or debt stock in Nigeria. We see Dr. Adesina all the way in New York saying that countries like Nigeria do need international assistance. What kind of assistance should Nigeria be asking for now?
Well, thank you very much. I think when Mr. President was at the UN General Assembly meeting, he made a presentation where he actually pleaded with the creditor nations and other creditors that Nigeria and other countries should be forgiven their debt. That's a very, very tall order as far as I'm concerned. We remember that during the time of Okonjo-Iweala, we had to negotiate this debt. We had to restructure these debts. And so asking for complete cancellation and forgiveness might be a very, very difficult request, as it were. But we are joining Mr. President in also making this request. But the truth of the matter is that the creditors and all those that have advanced loans to Nigeria and other countries, we want to see what we have used this money for. So there's need for a lot of transparency here. What have we used this money for? They need to see that. Once we're able to, we are transparent and we let them know and they see what we have used these funds for, then of course they might be willing to listen to us. But at this point in time, I'm not quite sure if they have that information yet. So that should be the starting point, to let them know what we have used these loans for. I think that's the starting point.
All right. While we start there, we would also like to see some consequences. We do know that with mounting debts, there's Fitch ratings, they downgrade countries' bonds and all of that based on factors such as this. What does Nigeria stand to lose? I mean, within how many years we are asking for debt forgiveness, and yet we are the giant of Africa, and yet in every sector of the economy we do have potentials which obviously have not been tapped. what do we stand to lose? What happens to our status? What happens to our ratings when we keep going this path?
That's a very good question. I must say that Nigeria has not played this game very well. Nigeria has not played this game very well. These loans that we have mounted over this period of time, unfortunately, these loans have not been used to finance productive activities, and that is where we are having the problem. A situation where you are going to use about the whole of your revenue to finance just the debt service. That is very, very frightening. We're in a very, very deep hole. So we don't have that kind of image that we can manage our economy very well, that we can manage assets very well, and therefore to have the strength and capability to be requesting for loan forgiveness. That's what is so frightening here. So I would say that we need to start to get solutions to solve the problem of generating enough revenue in the first place to be able to service these debts and to be able to run this country, this economy properly. I think that's the starting point. If a rating is conducted in Nigeria today, it will be very surprising to me that we're going to get a good rating. And in the absence of a good rating, then asking for a debt forgiveness would be a very tall order.
We do know that a country like Egypt, I believe, they had to devalue their currency recently to access IMF assistance and all of that. So these are some of the conditions. What are the possible conditions? Because I don't think, if at all, Nigeria is going to get their debt forgiven. I don't think anybody would just wake up and say, oh, we forgive you, go your way and do just what you want. What are some of the possible expectations and conditions that will come with it?
Yes, if we take our minds back to the past about IMF conditionalities, I think we're very, very much familiar with that. IMF conditionalities, no one forgives, no one cancels your debt unless you have met certain conditions. And one of them is that of devaluation of your currency. And that's it would have been a good thing to do, but of course you need a political will to be able to devalue your currency, because if you devalue your currency, it has a lot of implications, especially social implications. And because you're in an election year, I'm not quite sure anybody has that political will to devalue. Once you devalue, the spiral effect on the rest of the society can be quite serious. And given the current state we find ourselves in this country, a leader will find it very difficult. We may not have the political will, but that is what we need to do. We need to devalue the currency and also manage our exchange fundamentals, very, very clearly, and of course maintain some macroeconomic stability. So in the absence of good macroeconomic stability, in the absence of having the political will, and of course one of them, that of devaluation of your currency, which is currently at the black market rate is 700 and something naira to a dollar. So when you devalue further, you're talking of close to 2,000 naira to a dollar. That will be very, very serious, and no leader will want to do that at this point in time.
Yeah, but some people believe that the naira has already taken its biggest fall, and there's hardly anything that can be done to make it look worse than it is now.
I'm not quite sure that is correct. Remember Zimbabwe, where you have to go with a basket of their currency to, exchanging for a dollar. That we're having 715 or 800 naira to a dollar. That doesn't mean that is a true reflection of the actual value of this currency, because if you look at your productive economy, you can see that you don't have the fundamentals to say that your currency should be at that level. So if IMF and all the creditor countries actually say that we need to devalue, I can tell you it is going to be more than 2,000 naira to a dollar. And there's no way people can accommodate that. So that's why the leader, the comment is very, 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 very careful not to dribble himself into that corner, especially in an election year. So let me be very clear. If you look at the demand-supply dynamics of the foreign exchange market, I can tell you that 700 naira is not actually the true value of the currency. I need to be very firm on that. I have done a lot of econometric studies on that. That is not the true reflection. It's worse than that, given the productivity of this economy.
So from your findings, you could get to 2,000 if it was allowed, you know, to be determined by the normal market factors.
I'm not saying yes or no. I don't want to stick out my neck to say it is 2,000, it is 1,000. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it could be worse than the 700 naira that is at the black market. The official rate is about 400 and something naira to $1. And we are not going to use the black market rate to benchmark. But the point really is, if we are to look at the demand-supply dynamics, you can be very sure that the exchange rate could be worse than what it is currently. And what the central bank is doing is try to manage the rate. That's what we are doing. But if we have to allow it for a free fall in line with IMF and other conditionalities, it is going to be disastrous for us as a country.
All right. Then would you say, I know Nigeria just enjoyed this a couple of months ago, special drawing rights. Is that an option in the face of these mounting debts?
Well, it's one option, but the drawing right, if you draw that, it's not going to help us in any way. There are so many factors, pushing and, kicking this economy here and there. Because if you look at exchange rate dynamics, you look at demand-supply dynamics, you find that special drawing right is not going to add up to anything. We need to fundamentally change the structure of the system and manage the economy in a very, very prudent manner, so that the supply of foreign currency will be more than the demand for foreign currency. If in the absence of that, any tokenism, any tweaking here and there will not change the fundamental situation. So I think we need to go to the drawing board, look at the demand-supply dynamics, look at the forces, and then try to see how to increase the supply of foreign currency, and also work on the side of the demand, so that only very, very important items are actually funded by this economy, such a way that supply should be more than demand. Then you can have a very good exchange rate.
All right, Dr. Emmanuel Abolo, thank you so much, Director General, Economic Think Tank Center Limited, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you very much. That's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.